what you want, when you want it, where you want it. This is The Mesh.
Footcandle Films. Film news and reviews from two guys who really like movies.
This episode is brought to you by the Footcandle Film Society. For a schedule of upcoming screenings and membership information, visit the Society's website at www.footcandle.org.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Footcandle Films. This is our film review and discussion show here on themesh.tv, where we talk about films and movies and things that we've seen, things we want to see. And with me, as always, Mr. Chris Fry. Chris, how you doing, bud?
I'm doing good.
Yeah?
Survived the little bit of winter weather North Carolina
The snowpocalypse?
Yes.
Yeah, we did have quite the downpour of snow, but it's already gone as of today, or pretty close to gone anyway. So that was nice. Didn't inconvenience things too bad. Just a couple of days of some fraught travel there and all, but we're back on track. We're back in the recording studio, ready to go. Here's the show we've got lined up for you today. We're going to be reviewing the film Inside Llewyn Davis that we just attended a screening of last night. Then we'll be reviewing insert name of film review after that. We haven't quite recorded our second review, so that'll be a nice surprise when you get to that part of the show to see which one we actually ended up reviewing. So as of this recording, we don't have it figured out yet, but it'll be plugged in by the time you listen to this. Right. So it's kind of like you're going to hear the future before we're hearing it now, which is kind of cool. So then we're going to talk a little bit about some news. Mainly, we're going to talk about films coming out in 2014. We have put 2013 to bed, other than when we get our reaction to the Oscars and what they got right or wrong when that comes out in a few weeks. Otherwise, though, let's start looking at this year and talk about the movies coming out this year we're most interested in seeing. And then we'll cap it off with our recommendation of the show for an online or rental that you can check out that we think you might enjoy. So with that, Chris, are you ready to get started?
Absolutely.
Let's jump right into the first film we're going to review, which is the Coen Brothers' latest film, Inside Llewyn Davis.
What'd you say you played?
Folk songs.
Folk songs. Solo act?
No, I had a partner. Threw himself off the George Washington Bridge.
George Washington Bridge? You throw yourself off the Brooklyn Bridge. Traditionally. George Washington Bridge. Who does that?
If I had wings like Noah's dove.
In Inside Llewyn Davis, the Coen Brothers take us on a little trip where we get to explore basically the week in the life of a folk singer, young folk singer in the Greenwich Village area of New York. And as he travels between there and Chicago, a gentleman named Llewyn Davis, as you probably could figure out from the name of the movie itself. And this is a film all about what's going on inside of Llewyn Davis's, both his head, emotions, experience, disappointments. I can't say there's a lot of joy because there's not a lot of joy in the film, but basically we get to see the life of a very unknown and personality hampered individual as he tries to navigate the folk scene back in the 1960s. So it's a period piece. It's the Coen Brothers. We've talked about some Coen Brothers films in the past shows before. Not only reviewed a couple, but I know many of them have popped up as some of our recommendations or ones we've brought up as films that we really like. Chris, you and I are both Coen Brothers fans, although we're not the fans that just love every single film they've done. There's actually quite a few we both either don't really care for or seem to be a little more on the bottom of the list as far as our Coen Brothers films.
Sure.
So I guess the biggest way, I hate the whole idea of ranking films because it does seem to kind of force the label on a film on where it has to fall numerically in a list. But just for kicks, how about you tell me, after watching this film, where in their filmography, where would you put it? Is this in the top half of their films? Is it in the bottom half? And if you want to be even more daring, can you tell me what films of their filmography this is more in line with as far as your preference?
Well, I think it was a good film, and it definitely is not like I wouldn't rank it in the bottom of their film mark. Having just seen it last night, it's a film that you definitely need to, or at least I do, wrestle with, because there's some ideas that are running through the film, and it ends up not being linear. There's kind of a circular notion to it about the story. And that kind of took me a little bit by surprise. And then actually, the credits were rolling and I couldn't even focus on, who the people were in the movie or who had, done the craft services because I was trying to figure out, okay, wait, how does that work within the context of the film?
Well, and it should be said that, too, I think the reason it kind of throws you for a loop, too, is that there was no disjointed structure to the film up until really the last 5-10 minutes of the film.
Correct.
So it's not like you were expecting it to be kind of a Pulp Fiction thing where things were out of order and all that, and you knew that pretty much from the first few minutes.
Correct.
This was truly, the whole film seemed fairly linear until the last 10 minutes. It's like, wait a minute, maybe it wasn't linear what I just saw.
Or maybe it was.
Yeah, I know. It's a big question to ask there,
right.
sure.
And so my immediate reaction was, honestly, I was irritated because I wasn't, it took me by surprise, but it took me out of the film because I couldn't concentrate even though the credits were rolling. But it was kind of frustrating at first. Mm-hmm. But the more I think about it, the more I reflect on it, the more I admire what they were doing. As to why they were doing it, it's kind of like a previous film, A Serious Man. It kind of lets you think about it on your own. It's not going to give you any easy answers. And so for that matter, I guess it does kind of float to the top. Is it going to pass, in my book, Big Lebowski, Oh Brother, Where Art Thou, Raising Arizona? No.
Which would be some of your favorites.
Which would be, those would kind of be, in my top three.
Sure.
Some of the ones you referenced that are not as big for me, Burn After Reading, Fargo, those, The Man Who Wasn't There, those are lesser. And of course, everybody's going to bash on the Lady Killers. Well, yes, there's that. Those are, lower down the totem pole. But it definitely floats up near the top of some of my favorites of theirs.
Okay. So it's in the top half of the filmography.
Definitely.
You enjoyed it. And I'm with you on that too. It's probably middle of the road, maybe a little bit on the upper side of their filmography for me as well. I mean, but again, their filmography, I like most of the films they've made, so it's not like it's being in the midpoint or top half. It's still pretty good.
A bad film for the Coen Brothers is a good film for anybody else, pretty much.
For most other people,
right.
Yeah. I'm wrestling with the end a little bit. I'm wrestling with some other questions that were brought up in the film that thankfully they don't spell out for you. There weren't beat you over the head with their messages. I mean, a lot of it is you just kind of processing on your own. It was a very dark film. It was a very down film. But I also think there might have been, maybe the ending did point us in the direction of there being possibly some hope. I don't know. There's a lot of different ways you can interpret it. It's either showing us that it's all pointless and we're just lost in the shuffle day to day, or it could have been pointing us to something might be changing going forward. I don't know. Sure. That's what I'm still kind of dealing with. And then the question about the cat. If you've seen the trailer, the cat is a key player in the film, and there's some role the cat's playing, and it's never quite 100% spelled out. And I think I've come up with 4 different theories of my own since the screening last night. I still have my favorite theory at the moment, which I could argue with. Maybe we mention it in spoiler stuff here at the end.
Okay.
But let me ask you about some of the performances and ask you about the actual filmmaking style of the Coen Brothers. First, with the acting, we've got Oscar Isaac starring as Llewyn Davis, and Oscar Isaac. He's been in a lot of films, but it's been a lot of small parts. He has not led a film, to the best of my knowledge, from what I could tell or have I seen. You've got Carey Mulligan starring as Gene, his ex-lover, who's also a folk singer. You've got John Goodman as a very interesting character, like he is in most Coen Brothers films he appears in. Roland Turner, a jazz performer that Llewyn meets on his way to Chicago. And then you got a few other people. Justin Timberlake plays a small role as another folk singer named Jim. So interesting cast. I think the fact that they put a lot of weight on Oscar Isaac as the one performer. I don't think there's a scene we see that he's not in.
Yeah, I think he does.
I think it's pretty much everything's from his point of view.
Sure.
So how did Mr. Isaac do in his first true leading role for a pretty big film for him?
I was really impressed. I'd heard the name, but I think just because of this movie. So I thought he was amazing. It says something too where we've talked in recent podcasts, Wolf of Wall Street specifically, I'm thinking about, where maybe you don't like the person and that can affect whether or not you're interested in the film or whether you just kind of get bored by or something. Llewyn Davis, he's a tough guy for me to really get behind and like. The opening scene, which speaks to like Coen Brothers style, is very intent on him and very close up on him singing a song. And so you kind of get like, okay, obviously the title of the movie, this is going to be all about him. And I don't like him, but I can see his talent, and that helps me stick with the movie because you're just, it's kind of like the suffering artist, but yet he's an interesting person enough that I want to keep with the movie.
Yeah,
and I think a lot of that's his
I think it's
performance.
interesting. I don't think you necessarily have to like him, but you can at least understand sometimes where he's coming from. He's somebody who we come to find out is dealing with the grief of losing a musical partner. We find that out very early in the film.
Right.
So that's hanging over the film pretty much for its entire duration. He doesn't connect. He's not very good around people.
No.
He does not have very good social skills.
No.
He's very opinionated.
Yeah.
He's bad-mouthing a lot of other performers, even though, quite honestly, a lot of the other songs we heard in the music were pretty good.
And
but he's just very opinionated about his own style.
And here's speaking a little bit about Isaac's performance. He doesn't even have to badmouth them.
Oh, yeah.
Sometimes he's just
his
watching
face.
them.
Yep.
And his body language,
Such
his face
disdain.
says it
Yeah,
enough. He doesn't have to say anything. You're just like, and yeah, you're right. You listen to music, like, this music's pretty good. It may be different from what he's doing, but he just doesn't even.
Yeah,
he's
he's
just
very
dripping with
self-centered in
disdain.
this thing.
Yeah.
But at the same time, he's not an evil person. I mean, he's
No.
not going out to wreck people's lives. He's
Right.
just making really poor decisions along the way, guided by emotion, guided by pride. So, it's not like the Jordan Belfort character in Wolf of Wall Street where
Correct.
you just don't like the guy. I don't like the guy.
Right.
We're not supposed to like him. We may be entertained by him at points. We may be fascinated by him, but we don't like him.
Right.
Llewyn Davis is a character that he's not a good guy, but we can at least understand some of what he's going through, and we can sympathize to some degree with somebody who's just so guided by their own emotions and passion and opinions and self-assurance that he gets himself so frustrated. It's his own doing in most cases.
And I think that's a good jumping point with, like you're saying, he's not a bad guy, but you do get irritated with him, to talk about Carey Mulligan.
Okay.
I really enjoyed her role in this movie.
Okay.
Yes, it was a smaller part. It's a supporting part, but she usually plays like vivacious, happy, innocent girl. And in this movie, she plays a very bitter ex-girlfriend, and she keeps just tearing Llewyn Davis down, and she keeps referring to him as a bag of expletive and just keeps saying that over and over again. And it's just like, wow, And so there again, you see like, okay, maybe the guy is making bad choices, but he is clearly not as bad as this girl is just giving him what for.
Well, she's, and I think you look at it from any relationship that goes sour, and I think she's hurt, she's bitter, and of course she knows a lot more about him and knows that his choices and the bad decisions he makes are pretty common, and it's not just with her.
Right.
But you do admit by the end of the film, she still has shown that there's at least a compassion towards him.
Sure.
Even if she still doesn't respect him and thinks he's a bag of what.
Excrement.
Yeah. It's just she's obviously very passionate about the situation that he's put her in and all the complications he's caused her.
Right.
No, I think it was good to see her Carey Mulligan play a part that wasn't sweet and nice and pleasant. I mean, she was very, very bitter and very, very angry and foul-mouthed and everything else. And it was just, it was an interesting part to see her play. I'll agree. She did a good job with it.
I thought so.
I like seeing her on screen, so I would have been happier seeing her part be a little larger, but she served the purpose of the story that it needed her to. Any other performances stand out to you? I mean, we've got John Goodman, we've got Garrett Hedlund as Johnny Five, the basically the driver for Mr. Turner.
Right. I was confused by that part, actually, the Johnny Five character. If there was one that I wanted more just because he seemed interesting, but it was just kind of, he was the quiet man and they weren't going to give us any more from his character. I wish I could have gotten more. There could have been a little bit more humor there. Or
it felt like it was building to something and it never really paid off with him. So that was, it was one of those interesting Coen Brother characters that you kind of wanted to learn a little bit more about. I'll tell you two more interesting characters that I wish we had more time with. Al Cody, one of the performers who recorded a session with Llewyn Davis and ended up letting Llewyn crash at his apartment for a little while. Very interesting, not only interesting looking guy and sounding guy, but just seems like he's got a lot of backstory that I wish we had more time to dig into.
Right. And in kind of what you touched on, in a darker movie, he was definitely some comedic relief.
Yeah,
and you wanted to kind of hang out with him a little bit more.
Yeah, played by Adam Driver, which I'm not familiar with anything he's done. I think he's only been in the movie or the TV show Girls. Okay. Isn't that the one on HBO? I think he's on that. And then Stark Sands plays Troy Nelson, who's another singer, but he's also in the military. Just, again, another interesting Coen Brothers character where it's just, you think you know him on the surface, but you then start to realize there's probably a little bit more to him than what you realize. And I think that was another one of those characters that Llewyn encounters along the way, and I think really kind of helps build the story up.
He was the military officer.
That's right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that was interesting too. That at first, the way he's portrayed, I was kind of disappointed.
It was very caricaturish, almost over the top. Yeah.
And then Llewyn has another encounter with him, and then he kind of deepens his understanding of that guy.
Yeah.
I really appreciated that touch.
That interchange, yeah.
You mentioned Justin Timberlake. I really like Mr. Timberlake. And
we can admit it. Yeah, he's good.
I'm a fan. Granted, I saw him in Runner, and he was horrible with Ben Affleck. But
it sounds like the whole movie was pretty bad for that.
It's not his fault. He, I think, is a good actor. And I really liked him in The Social Network. And in this movie, he is willing to let himself look dumb.
Yeah.
And I think that says a lot. I guess you could have guessed that from when he does stuff on Saturday Night Live. I really enjoyed his singing performance too, because he was taking it seriously, but yet at the same time was able to be comedic about it. I really, really,
well, he's
really,
a talented
really
guy, and I'm glad to see him doing interesting roles like this and not just going the Hollywood pure big box office route like you could expect him to do.
Right.
Hopefully, if I could put thoughts into Mr. Timberlake's head, maybe it's you know what, you made enough money already from your touring and your albums and all that. You're set. Go keep experimenting with the film side. Do some fun character roles and see where things go.
I mean, if the Coen Brothers, this is like their second. They did Oh Brother Where Art Thou, which used a lot of music. This movie obviously has folk music. If they're going to continue to do music movies, I hope they keep Justin Timberlake in mind as somebody to keep using. So.
Absolutely. What did you think of the music? I mean, and not only just whether you're a fan of folk music style, but the way it was handled in the film, the way it was used in the film, the performances recorded. I mean, what was your thoughts?
I thought
there?
the shooting of the different performances was excellent. I liked the music in the film. In general, folk music is kind of hit or miss for me. I'm not a really big fan, but in the movie, having seen the songs in the movie, those I am interested in, and specifically the one I'm assuming created for the movie, the Mr. Kennedy.
Please, Mr. Kennedy. Yep.
Yeah, I really liked that.
That was a fun song,
which I guess is not as much folk music as it was just a really odd song.
Yeah, it's a very odd song, but fun, catchy. But yet again, that was another example of a song that was a catchy song, and I could have heard that being a hit at that time. Again, Llewyn Davis, you could just tell, hated it and hated being a part of it and didn't want anything to do with it. But again, come to find out that could have been actually a chance for him to get some of the fame that he so desperately wants. So, it's just another interesting example of missed opportunities and bad choices for him. And,
I'll say another performance. Obviously, Alan and I, it's a Coen Brothers movie. You have a lot of different characters. A lot of good, solid characters that almost could do their own little movie. F. Murray Abraham plays a club owner, and that Llewyn Davis goes to see in Chicago that you referenced. And I really enjoyed those two kind of squaring off against one another.
Sure, yeah.
And there again speaks to the strength of Oscar Isaac. It wasn't like he was a dwarf in the presence of a giant, because F. Murray Abraham, he's a big, he's big acting in the acting world. And they were like toe to toe and held.
I would have actually loved to have seen more of that interchange and more of that encounter between the two of them. And playing F. Murray Abraham played Bud Grossman, I guess a club owner up in Chicago that Llewyn was hoping he could get some gig work with.
Right.
Overall, it sounds like we liked the film. We didn't love the film. I'm the same way as you. I mean, I'm not putting it as one of the top films of the year for me, but I did like it. Glad I saw it. Few things I wish I had a little more clarity, but it's probably just more for me about the ending and the framework and some of the reasoning behind some of the moves they made in the film. But I enjoyed the music. I really enjoyed Oscar Isaac's performance as well. Overall, I'm going to give it a good positive review. So.
Well, we can't get out of this, Alan, without you at least telling me one or two theories about what the cat represents.
All right, so are you putting up the spoiler tags then? Is that okay?
So,
although technically this isn't too spoilery. I mean, but yeah, we'll still put this at the end of the show if that's okay.
Right. So we're going to go ahead and say maybe we'll talk about this for 5 minutes or so. So if you want to skip now, haven't seen the movie, then do so.
Well, let's just do that. We're going to do it right now and skip ahead if you haven't heard the movie, seen the movie, or... if you don't want to be spoiled to it or whatever. But I don't think we're really giving away anything. It's more theories. So the cat. Okay, so the cat shows up pretty early in the film.
Correct.
And basically accompanies Llewyn through a good part of his journey. We come to find out about midway through the film that the cat's got switched, basically. He lost the cat, thought he found the cat. Turned out it was a different cat than what it was.
Right.
So the question is, what does the cat represent? Now,
And then at one point, we think he's killed the cat that was switched.
yeah, he actually hits an animal on the road outside of Akron, Ohio, on his way back to New York.
And he'd abandoned said cat.
Well, actually, on his way to Chicago. That's right.
Right.
On
the way to Chicago,
Yeah.
he abandoned the cat.
Yeah.
He's driving back through the same area, and he
Hits an animal that we only see off in the distance in the shadows. Looks to be like it could have been a cat limping off.
Right.
So here's my theory.
Okay.
Well, there's two theories I've was batting around. One was that the cat represents Llewyn.
Okay.
Just, he's his name is Ulysses. He's on a journey. He's meeting interesting characters along the way. But I don't know. That's almost too simple. I think the cat maybe represents his dead partner,
Mike.
the one who committed suicide. And here's my reasons for it.
Okay.
One, the cat lives at the condo of a good friends of Llewyn, a couple that are very supportive of him and have let him stay there whenever he needs to. The cat lives there, and they were very close to Mike somehow. We don't know how.
Right.
I almost got the impression they were his parents at one point, but they almost seemed too okay with things to be his parent.
Right.
If he had committed suicide just within the last few months.
Right.
But I think they were still very close to him.
Sure.
The fact that the cat lived there kind of made me think, okay, so maybe that's something there. The fact that the cat keeps trying to leave and Llewyn actually wants to take care of the cat, which Llewyn's obviously very affected by the death of his partner.
Right.
He's not very vocal about it, but you can tell it's still hanging really deep on him. And the fact that everybody's almost amazed that he's spending so much time focusing on the cat and trying to take care of the cat when he doesn't really take care of people around him makes you wonder if, like, okay, maybe he sees the cat as kind of a representation of somebody that he let get away. Maybe if he had tended to his friend and partner more, maybe he wouldn't have killed himself. I don't know. And then there was something I'll have to come back to. There's something. Okay, and then at the end, when it circles back around and we see him go through the same morning, what could be a second time, or it could be a redo of it. We're not really sure.
Not really sure.
Wakes up in the morning and the cat's getting ready to get out just like he did at the beginning of the film. And that causes the whole chain of events for Llewyn to be chasing the cat.
Right.
He stops him this time and says, nope, you stay here. See, to me, that's almost a little glimmer of hope. And that I think in a way, Llewyn was so still hung up on his partner and that relationship and his partner's death. This time he says, you know what? No, you stay here.
Right.
I'm moving on.
Right.
And I think he tried to move on from when he left the cat in the car on the way to Chicago. But then he ended up hurting what may have been a cat. And he kind of put the two together and felt like, that wasn't the right time to leave my partner. I still needed him because obviously he was trying to go get a solo gig in Chicago. And even F. Murray Abraham was saying, you need to be part of a group. Like,
Right.
You're not a good solo act. So that's kind of my thinking with it. It's not a perfect theory, but I could see that being somewhat of maybe what they're trying to get across.
Right. And I'm there with you. It's interesting that he stops the cat from getting out, yet I believe he still goes on to make a really serious mistake. Does he stop the cat from getting out and then heckles somebody, or does he heckle a performer and then stops the cat? Do you know what I'm trying to spoil a lot still?
Well, I think he heckles the person, and then the next morning is when he stops the cat from leaving.
Interesting.
Because he gets punched the next night.
Right.
He
goes
punched
back to perform.
That's
Yeah,
right.
Right.
So I do think, and I almost think in a way that even the last little bit with Llewyn, he just got punched by this guy. He's sitting there laying in the alley. He's kind of broken and bruised. But I think the fact that he's got a little bit of a, what does he say? Does he say au revoir?
Au revoir. Yeah.
I think that's almost a little bit of a, you know what? Yeah, I deserve that. Yep, I got to take my lumps, but I'm kind of ready to start crawling back into this thing.
And that's the hope that you
a little bit.
I'm kind of there with you. I'd never had really considered it being Mike. I'd actually, in the film, he's trying to get the Gorfines. I can't remember the last name.
That's the couple that he stays with a lot.
The cat gets out. He's trying to get the cat back to them. He calls the university, I guess, where the guy teaches.
Right.
And he's talking to a secretary, and he's like, hey, I just want to get this cat back. And she's like, tell him Llewyn's got the cat. And the woman's like reading back to him. She's like, okay, Llewyn is the cat. And she's like, no. And I don't know if that was the Coen Brothers kind of hinting, like,
I think they were having fun
Llewyn
with
is
that.
the cat.
or saying, you know what, you may think Llewyn is the cat, but Llewyn's not the cat. Right.
Well, and then there's a incredible journey poster that you see that shows animals, and there's a cat involved. That's like, okay, the cat's been on a journey. You've been on a journey. So, yeah, I mean, it could work either way.
Yeah.
And
I don't think it's meant to be one or the other.
Oh, no.
I think it's just whatever you interpret it as. I mean, it could just been they thought it'd be funny for him to have to carry a cat everywhere he goes. Who knows? I mean, it does make for a striking picture, him riding the subway and riding in a car and having to hold on to a cat the whole time. So
I'd read online that Joel, which we know online is always the Bible. Anything that's online is gospel truth.
Sure, of course.
But one of the Coen Brothers, Joel, said that on drafts of the screenplay, they'd written it and they liked it, but the problem was it didn't have any plot, so they threw a cat in there. So they're like, okay.
Yeah, that works.
So, it's interesting to think how much of a part that ends up playing, or at least I feel like it does. So, yeah, interesting. Don't know what it means, but doesn't really matter. Still like it.
So that's in spoilers. We're done talking about Llewyn Davis. Again, I don't think it really spoils the film for anybody.
No.
If anything, it may even make you more curious to want to go see it now. So
True.
All right. We're going to take a quick let's not take a break. Let's jump right into our insert name of movie review right now. I don't know what we're getting ready to review. I will find out for myself here in just a moment.
Awesome.
So moving on to our next review, which is...
I am so pumped up! Yes! Overpriced coffee.
That's $37.
Awesome!
Everything is awesome.
Oh my gosh, I love this song!
It's cool when we're part of the team. Everything is awesome.
No, guys, wait up! Where am I?
Come with me if you want to not die.
What is happening?
You're the special. And the prophecy states that you're the most important person in the universe. That's you, right?
Yes. That's me.
The Lego Movie, Alan.
Yes.
It's been described on Twitter as the Lego Movie cannot not make you happy. And it's like punching sadness in the face with a boxing glove made of jelly beans.
Wow.
I did not come up, like I said, I borrowed that from
you
Twitter.
borrowed that, so that's trademarked somewhere else.
Yeah,
right.
exactly.
Okay.
So
that was pretty clever.
With that being said, Alan,
yes.
How did you feel about the Lego Movie?
I'll tell you with the Lego Movie, and I probably, when you hear everybody talking about how great a family movie is.
Awesome?
Yeah, it's awesome.
Everything about it is
Everything about it is awesome.
Okay.
And we're not going to sing the song because I was humming it for a while after the movie, but I thought it was pretty good.
Wow.
It's like, how's that for a ringing endorsement?
Pretty good.
I thought it was okay. I thought it was fun. I did have a good time with it. Was it the movie event of the decade, like I keep hearing people talk about with high ratings? It had some of the same shortfalls that I have with a lot of the family animated movies that are coming out these days. Very similar plot line, very similar story arcs on things, except, and we're not going to spoil it, but there is an interesting little twist towards the end that I wasn't expecting.
Okay.
Where they kind of mix the format a little bit, I guess we could say.
Sure.
Break the fourth wall a little bit, maybe. That part was really interesting and well done. But it was very creative. It was one of the most creative family animated movies I've seen in a really long time. And it was also one of the funnier ones too. Mm-hmm. That being said, I think I'm just getting old, Chris.
No.
I think the CGI, it's just the assault on your senses, which it still had in a lot of parts.
True. Still
gets to me. I think anytime I watch a movie now where it's just so over the top energy and activity and CGI stuff going on, I go a little brain dead during those times of the movie.
I think you just need to see it again.
Really? Okay. All right.
I hear what you're saying, but this movie for me, granted, it's early in 2014. It is my favorite movie that I've seen in a long time.
Wow. Okay. Well, very nice.
Yeah, I think I may be championing this movie like I was Prometheus, actually, come the year end. If it doesn't win an Oscar for Best Animated Film, I think there's a travesty. And I haven't seen any of the other animated films yet for 2014.
You haven't seen The Nut Job?
No, thankfully. Actually, I did see Peabody and Mr. Sherman. That was horrible.
Okay.
But let me use that as an example, actually. That film and another one from a while ago, to talk to our viewers, I think I've mentioned before Pirates of the Caribbean. and how that movie came out. And I thought I was like, that is the most worst idea for a movie ever. And people started saying, oh, it's good. Johnny Depp's funny. I'm like, I don't care. It's a movie about a ride. How dumb can that be? That will be horrible. I went to see it, and I was wrong. I loved that movie.
Yeah.
Lego movie. I saw previews with my kids, and we went to take them to go see Frozen. My son specifically, who, surprise, likes Legos, was like, Dad, I want to see that. And I'm like, okay. And he had to drag me to that movie. The whole family went. And I was dreading it because I'm like, it's just capitalizing on the Lego video games that they've made.
Right.
And they've made some straight-to-DVD movies that
It's
have
a
been
big commercial
successful.
for the toy,
And I
the
just,
product
I was
line.
like, and the preview actually did not win me over either. I just was not impressed with the preview at all. And I went into this movie, and right from the beginning, I was like, wow, I think this is actually going to be worth something. And the whole time I was entertained. Unfortunately, I did see it in a really big theater that was this 2D thing, which basically means the screen's just really huge.
Yeah,
It wasn't
I did
3D,
too.
but
Yeah.
2D.
The big D.
Yes. So I was crammed way up near the front, which made it very hard to see a lot of the action scenes. I wish I could have been farther back. But that was not enough to annoy me so that I didn't like the film. I really liked it. And even the vocal performances in it. Liam Neeson as good cop, bad cop.
Yeah.
Chris Pratt, who's the lead.
He is very funny.
I thought he was awesome. Morgan Freeman, who does I was really, really pleasantly surprised. And I must say, any film that I walk out of and I immediately buy something from that film, that's a good sign.
What did you buy?
Oh, I bought everything.
Everything is awesome? Yeah.
Absolutely. I now play it for my kids on the way to school every morning when I take them, and they like it as well. Although I think it is wearing thin.
But everything's awesome for a while.
For a while. But, that taking that song, which is a key part of the film, and kind of where the storyline goes, we haven't even talked about that. But it's kind of this Lego world where everything is just so, and everybody obeys the rules, and nobody tries to think outside the box. And
Everybody listens to the same popular music.
Right.
Everybody watches the same TV show.
Which is
where are my pants?
Honey, where are my pants?
Which is awesome.
Where are my pants? Which that's the thing that this film has going for it. I think is that it's perfectly fine for children, but there are things in there that mirror, in a way, Idiocracy.
Yeah, actually, I got a lot of Idiocracy comparisons out of the film.
But I didn't feel like they were ripping it off or anything.
No.
There's, some Neo Matrix references in there, But it's not ripping it off. It's kind of paying homage to, but making it its own little animal. And that's what made this movie, elevated it. And the song Everything is Awesome, which you've probably heard, is funny. But then if you actually listen to the words, they have the guys from Adam Sandberg or Andy Sandberg.
The Lonely Island.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they helped co-write it. And the lyrics are really, really clever. And if you actually listen to them, they're very funny. So it was really rewarding. And I think this could actually challenge a Disney song for Best Original Song next year in the Oscar, because that song on the surface is very light and frivolous, but if you actually listen to the words, it actually means something and plays a whole part in the movie. So
and don't let my somewhat tempered reaction at the beginning
come on,
fool
Alan,
you.
Everything is awesome about this movie.
I did. Everything was pretty good about this movie. Yes, I will say it was pretty good. I did enjoy it. It's just, again, I think I'm just burnt out on animation, like computerized animation. And although I do like the fact that it looks like many of the scenes they probably did use actual Legos and make the scenes work, it looked that way.
Yeah.
But then when they get to the over the top big action sequences and it's just stuff going everywhere and all over the place, I just my brain shuts down and says, you know what, just wake me up, brain, when they start talking again or when dialogue's happening. So that's a little bit of it for me, but I will say towards the end, the kind of break in the format that they make in the film and kind of take you by surprise with where they go with it, I thought was really great. It did get a little on the emotional side. I think some of the messaging that came across during that scene was really well handled.
Yeah.
So I do think it kind of hit the right emotional notes at the right time. The comedy levels was really good. And even though, I thought the CGI action scenes were overdone, overall, the animation style, keeping it as Lego-like as possible, was really, really good. So, yes, this was a very good animated film. Was it my life-changing experience for me? No. But it was a very, very good film. I enjoyed it.
I have to say, too, that I had seen Chris Pratt in Parks and Recreation. I mean, I've seen a couple episodes of the show. I'm not a follower, and he was one of my favorite things about the movie Her, which we reviewed here on the show. His role in this movie, he was the lead, and Will Ferrell was the main bad guy against Chris Pratt's character, Lord Business.
Lord Business, yeah. Or Lord President.
Lord President and Lord Business.
Lord Business,
both, yeah.
So, that was a spoiler. We probably should have told everybody it's the same person.
Oh, it's revealed.
I think you know that pretty early on. Okay.
So Chris Pratt, I think, is maybe going to be my new Will Ferrell.
He's got the same chops. I mean,
does.
he's good. And I'll tell you.
And Guardians of the Galaxy, I am now on board, which I think I saw a preview for that, not in front of the Lego movie, but I've seen a preview somehow. And I liked the preview. And after seeing the Lego movie, I'm like, okay, Chris Pratt, I don't think you can, knock on wood, I don't think you can do any wrong right now. I am on board with seeing Guardians of the Galaxy.
All right, good. Good. We will make sure we check that out together when it comes out, I guess, late this summer.
Okay.
And we'll make sure we review that. But Lego movie, I mean, yeah, we both recommend it. Chris highly, highly recommends it.
Yes.
I recommend it with gumption.
Well, and definitely choose that over Peabody and Mr. Sherman.
Well, I mean, there again, I really have resisted going to any CGI animated film for months now, and luckily my kids are kind of to the point where, they're not really as much into that anymore. They want action movies, they want all that. So
They want the Avengers.
They're looking forward to Captain America here in a couple of weeks, as am I. But the Lego movie, a lot of fun, great for the whole family, definitely a good movie.
We'll get back to your show in a moment. Just a reminder, you're listening to The Mesh, an online media network of shows and programs ranging from business to arts, sports to entertainment, music to community. All programs are available on the website as well as through iTunes and YouTube. Find out more at themesh.tv and give us feedback on what you like. And now, as promised, back to your show.
Welcome back to Footcandle Films. So you just heard our reviews of Inside Llewyn Davis and Untitled Mystery Film that we ended up reviewing ourselves. So,
and wasn't it good?
Yeah, I'm sure both reviews were excellent, well done reviews. So, Chris, now's the time of the show where we normally go through some news. I think last time we got together, we talked about the Oscar nominations and kind of went through our list of what we liked, what we didn't like out of the nominations, our picks for the ones we hope will win or should win. So if you're curious about listening to those and you missed it, go under the Mesh TV website and you can pull up last week's, or not last week's, but 2 weeks ago's episode of Footcandle Films. So go to themesh.tv and look for Footcandle Films, and you should see a list of all of our back episodes you can go back and explore. Of course, you can always find us on iTunes and Stitcher Radio as well. But here we are. Let's talk about 2014 a little bit. Okay. Now, during our news segments over the last several months, we've been hinting at or talking about early production notes on some of these films. But here we are. We're actually 2 months into 2014 already. The summer movie season is going to be coming, the awards season at the end of the year, everything in between. There's a lot of interesting films to be keeping our eyes on. So how about let's do this, Chris? I've got a few on my list. I think you've got a few on yours.
Okay.
Let's kind of trade back and forth. Let's talk about the films we're the most interested in. Now, keep in mind, guys, this is not us saying that these films are going to be awesome. Some of these films could be really, really bad.
It's true.
These are just ones that either the director, the cast, the premise, or something has got us excited about it. So hopefully we're not going in with too high expectations for any of these films. But these are the ones we're most looking forward to. What's one you've got on your list there, Chris?
Well, I'm looking forward to Interstellar by Christopher Nolan.
I've got that on my list as well. Yes.
Yeah, that what edges it? Not only do I really like the director, but it's going to have like a space science fiction type vibe to it. And as listeners to the podcast know, I tend to be kind of a fool for those type things. So that's one that I'm highly anticipating. Plus, it's got Matthew McConaughey,
who's on quite a roll right now.
Yes, he is.
Yeah.
So
Jessica Chastain, also great performer right now, doing a lot of great work. Anne Hathaway,
right?
Standard Michael Caine. You can't be in a Christopher Nolan movie, it looks like these days, without having Michael Caine in it. So,
and actually, one of my favorite science fiction movies, I guess, actually stars Matthew McConaughey in it, and it's Contact.
Oh yeah, the Jodie Foster and Robert Zemeckis film,
and it was kind of a quote unquote reality based science fiction film, but really cleverly done. It's one of those movies that if I ever saw it on cable and I came in, I'd just watch it to the end.
Absolutely.
I really like that movie.
I'm with you on that one.
I don't think I've ever actually mentioned Contact before on the
I don't
show.
think you have. I'm actually kind of surprised that you like it that much because I do too.
Yeah.
I think it's really good. I think it was very underrated when it came out. Didn't get quite the attention it should have.
I agree.
And Matthew McConaughey was good in it. He was still fairly fresh as an actor at that point.
I think so.
It was maybe his only second or third big role he had made. But I love that film. I think it's great. If we've got anything close to that kind of real science fiction grounded in reality with this kind of cast, I'm terribly excited as well.
Me too.
Christopher Nolan has not gone wrong in my book yet. Every film he's made, even if I didn't love it, I appreciated what he was doing.
Got you.
Dark Knight Rises, I didn't love. I thought was okay. But I almost felt like he kind of had to. It's kind of the movie he had to make as opposed to the one he maybe wanted to make. And then I still think the Prestige is a great movie, one of my favorites as well. So yeah, Interstellar, I had that on my list as well. Very, very interested in that one. Let me mention another one, Gone Girl by David Fincher. This one's coming out in October, and I guess I should say Interstellar is slated for November right now. So both of these are going to be quite a ways off still. But
Got you.
Gone Girl is David Fincher's film he's working on releasing this year, starring Ben Affleck, the new Batman himself. It's a nice segue there. Rosamund Pike, Neil Patrick Harris. Kind of interesting. So this is basically a crime thriller based on a novel by Gillian Flynn, best-selling novel I have not read. Recently laid off journalist is suspected of murdering his wife, and then who mysteriously disappeared on their 5-year wedding anniversary. Supposedly lots of twists and turns and all that going on as well. David Fincher, The Social Network, I thought was great. I really enjoy The Social Network.
Big fan.
Really love Fight Club. Appreciate Seven, although the subject matter is tough, but I do like the look of the film. So yeah, I'm a fan of his work. I was not big on what was the one he did about the crime,
Zodiac.
Zodiac. Yeah, I wasn't a big fan of Zodiac at all. That one tried my patience, but at least it looked really good.
I agreed.
So I'm on board with whatever Fincher wants to try. I'm at least willing to give it a shot and see what he does. And with it being based off of a novel, kind of a well-respected novel, at least I know the story is going to be kind of interesting. It's not something being written just for the film. Your thoughts on Fincher and the film here?
Fincher is an interesting director. I don't really usually care for the subject matter he goes after,
Right.
like, you're saying Seven, Zodiac, all those type of things. But I am a big fan of Fight Club, and I did also like The Social Network. So I'm interested to see what he does with it. Typically, from what you've described, the plot summary, I wouldn't be interested in like basic thriller type stuff.
Yeah, it sounds like a run-of-the-mill Morgan Freeman, Ashley Judd movie. Right?
Yes. Yes. So typically I wouldn't be interested in it. But hearing the director, I am interested. And the acting involved doesn't, Ben Affleck, not a big fan, so...
Well, I think Fincher alone's the draw there, and I am curious just him adapting a well-respected novel, so could be interesting. So I'm looking forward to that one. That's I think I mentioned that's coming out in October, looks like.
Okay.
What's another one you have on your list?
Another one that I am hoping is going to be released, but, you never know. They can move things, especially with this director, Terry Gilliam. He has a movie called The Zero Theorem, and it's been kind of in the works. It was actually slated to come out in 2013. Obviously, it didn't come out yet. So hopefully it will come out in 2014. But it has Matt Damon, Christoph Waltz, Ben Whishaw, Tilda Swinton, David Thewlis. So it's got kind of an awesome cast. Supposedly, there again, who knows if this is what the movie's about. It's a Terry Gilliam film. But a computer hacker's goal to discover the reason for human existence is continuously interrupted because the management keeps sending things to distract him from actually figuring out what, like, the goal of human existence. It's like, it seems very Brazil.
Yeah, I was going to say, that sounds like a little bit of that. And I mean, and a little bit of 12 Monkeys too, where you had the future scenes with Bruce Willis kind of interacting with this panel of people. I kind of get that kind of feel from it, from what I hear described of it.
Sure. But I'm a big Terry Gilliam fan. And even the things that he's never been able to do. He was going to do the Don Quixote movie,
film, which I had heard rumors that it's starting back up again.
Oh, man. And I just I like even something like Tideland, which was tough to watch, tough subject matter, but it's still interesting. He's got a very unique vision and a unique take on things. So I'm got my fingers crossed that it'll come out.
And I'm Fisher King. It's one of my all-time favorites.
Yeah.
So that's sure. I'm on board with this one as well. Okay, let me throw a little curveball here, a little one that's I had to really think about whether I'm anticipating this movie. The more I think about it, I'm like, nope, let's give it a shot.
Okay.
Sin City, A Dame to Kill For. So they're making a second Sin City movie. Now, if this were a direct-to-video or some cheap knockoff, no, would not have any interest at all. I thought the first Sin City was really fascinating to watch. Not a great movie.
Right.
But a fascinating one to watch from a style standpoint, cinematography, the look, the feel, the pulp feel of the whole movie was really cool.
Agreed.
So they're making a sequel, and it's not just a knockoff sequel. I mean, there were a whole series of Sin City books, so it's like they've got several stories they could tell.
Sure. But
Robert Rodriguez and Frank Miller are both coming back and doing this one, so it is true sequel, not a knockoff of it.
Rodriguez was the sole director on the first one, or did Tarantino direct a little bit of it? Or?
I think, well, it was rumored Tarantino had a little bit to do with it, but Frank Miller was technically credited as co-director, I believe.
Okay.
Where supposedly some scenes were done by Frank, some by Robert.
Gotcha.
This one is starring Josh Brolin, who's kind of on a little bit of a roll with some big pictures lately. Eva Green, who I really like.
Okay.
Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
Oh, okay.
Jessica Alba is back. She was in the first one as well. So, I'm interested in seeing what happens with this. If it matches the same personality and uniqueness that the first one did and has some compelling stories to tell, I'm on board. If it's all just let's just try to recapture the same feel and cram it into another movie, I think it'll be pretty obvious early on.
Sure. I thought it was interesting to see the style of the first one. Mm-hmm. I didn't really care for the story, and I've only watched it once. That kind of tells you how I feel about it. But this one probably wouldn't have any interest. It'll be interesting to see how much of a pull or how much Joseph Gordon-Levitt is going to be in it, because I really like him.
Sure.
So,
it's kind of like how The Hobbit. What's the Hobbit guy?
Oh, Elijah Wood.
Elijah Wood, yeah. It's kind of like how Elijah Wood was in the first film, kind of playing a little bit against type. I kind of hope they go a little nuts with Joseph Gordon-Levitt, let him play something really dark and dangerous. It'd be kind of fun. Mm-hmm. So, Sin City, A Dame to Kill For is slated right now for August 22nd.
Okay.
We'll see if that holds or not. All right, you got another one for us?
Yes, and I imagine it's probably on your list because I can't imagine.
I know where you're going with this. Yeah.
Inherent Vice.
Oh, no, I forgot about that one.
No, okay.
No, you're totally right, but yeah, I completely forgot about it.
Okay. Paul Thomas Anderson's Inherent Vice supposed to be coming out. You've been the intern has served you well by giving you all the release dates for your films. I don't know that, but I imagine it's probably going to be October, November.
I think so. They haven't even released a trailer yet or anything, and normally trailers are 5-6 months out, so yeah.
But it's a crime story from the 1970s based on a book by Thomas Pynchon and follows a detective. And I just think Paul Thomas Anderson doing this type of movie will be interesting. Yes, was I the biggest fan of The Master? No, but I still admired a lot of the qualities of the movie. He's got Joaquin Phoenix working with him again.
So that's becoming his new go-to guy, it looks like. So,
right. Owen Wilson.
That's interesting.
Be kind of odd. Benicio del Toro, Reese Witherspoon, and Martin Short.
Wow. Now, I have heard, I could be wrong on this, and please, everybody, all of our millions of listeners, please write in and tell me how wrong I am.
Sure.
I believe this one is going a little more on the comic side than maybe, my understanding is a drug-induced detective work, and that could be interesting.
Yeah.
Maybe they're going a little bit like they did with, what was it, the Robert Altman film where he did the detective movie.
The Long Goodbye
with Long Goodbye with Elliot Gould. That's it.
Right.
Which is a little more of a little bit of comedy mixed in with a little bit of a true detective crime.
Movie. Right.
That's kind of the feel I'm getting from what I'm hearing, especially with the casting having like Martin Short and Owen Wilson.
Okay.
I got a feeling we're not going to have quite the same serious P.T. Anderson we've had in his last couple films.
Which I'm ready for that.
Yeah, I'm okay. It'd be kind of going back a little bit to the Boogie Nights or Punch Drunk Love, maybe a little bit feel to it, as opposed to the There Will Be Blood and The Master, which were not very humorous at all. So,
right.
No, I'm very, very intrigued by that. He's still one of my favorite directors right now, and I really, really enjoyed The Master, and Boogie Nights and Magnolia are both two of my favorite films. So far we're hitting directors where you and I share some of our favorites somewhere in their filmography there. So Okay, well, let me bring up one that I know is going to be on your list then. We've already talked about it on the show several times, but The Grand Budapest Hotel.
Sure.
Wes Anderson, coming out March 7th. That one will be out pretty soon by the time people are listening to this episode.
True.
We've already talked about it, so I won't go into too much detail on it, but Ray Fiennes, Saoirse Ronan, Bill Murray, some of his typical cast of characters he's got in this film, just looks to be very, very fun. And I'll admit, I was the guy just a couple years ago saying, I really wish he would do something different.
Right.
I really just don't like him doing the same thing over and over again. He's going to have to break out of this. Then he did Moonrise Kingdom, and I'm like, you know what? Now he's fine. He can just keep doing the films he wants to do. Because that had just enough of a heart and emotion to it, while still keeping with his same quirky style. And I really enjoyed it.
Well, in Fantastic Mr. Fox, he kind of went out of the mold for Moonrise Kingdom. I almost felt like he was trying to make too many serious points almost for a start. And so, I mean, I still liked it. I think seemingly from the preview, this is just like, no, I am making this to have fun.
This does look like a big fun movie.
Right. It's got design and style, but it also looks like it's just going to be fun. Like if he was doing The Hangover, this is what it would look like. Because it's about people running around. It's
a little more slapstick comedy, a little more Keystone Caper type of thing. So Keystone Cops. Yeah, it could be. It looks that way from the trailer for sure.
Agreed.
I just hope he doesn't go so quirky and so Wes Anderson-ish that it just becomes a cliche by the end of the film. That's my only fear of it, really. Otherwise, I'm really looking forward to this. Should be a lot of fun.
And you wonder if he's aware, if he'll take an opportunity in this film to actually make fun of the cliche,
could be. Could be a little self-reflection in the film if he plays his cards right. So
right,
good. You got any other films to point out?
I do. I have one more, and this is kind of the one that I'm very hesitant about because I guess unfortunately I was watching the Super Bowl. I could not unsee it.
Yeah,
but I saw a preview for Noah.
Yeah,
and it's Darren Aronofsky and doing the story of a story from the Bible about, Noah's Ark. I'm like, okay, but Darren Aronofsky doing it? Okay. And, the cast is impressive. It's not like he has a bunch of no-names and spent all the money on effects. He has Russell Crowe, Jennifer Connelly, Emma Watson, Anthony Hopkins. I mean, he's got some good people.
Yeah. But
I am worried because, I don't know, I guess just the tone of the trailer did make it look to be just a special effects spectacle. So.
Yeah, and I'll give you a little background on the film too. I'm curious about the film, but I'm more curious to see does he pull it off? Because rumors is that there have been a lot of conflicts between he and the movie studio about who gets final cut. Last word I heard is that they are letting him release his final cut version of the film. But for a long time, there was a lot of back and forth about his vision for the film being very different than what the studio had in mind. A lot of money's going into this movie. It's a very expensive production.
I mean, it got a Super Bowl commercial.
Yeah. So, I think there's a lot riding on the film. I think there's a lot of nervous people around the film. And also, there seems to be a little bit of a surge right now in films about biblical stories being made. So I think everybody's going to be watching to see how does this film do, to see if they keep pushing forward with these other projects or not.
Since you mentioned that, one that I know very little about, but I'll go ahead and say, I wasn't going to mention it, but I'll go ahead and say, apparently Ridley Scott, supposedly in 2014, is also doing Exodus with Joel Edgerton, Sigourney Weaver, Christian Bale, John Turturro. I mean, there again.
Yep, it's another one.
The subject matter, everybody knows the story, but put it in the hands of a director like that and give that cast, it'd be kind of hard not to be interested in. Yeah. So that is another, I will say that's another one.
So I think there again, if Noah really just bombs, tanks, washes out, sinks. Whatever we want to say, sinks, it could be disastrous for some of these other productions that are slated to come out later as well. So. All right, well, let me give one more that I don't think you'll be as excited about because I know your opinions of their last film, but I'm going to bring it up anyway.
Okay.
The Interview. This is James Franco, Seth Rogen, another film done by Evan Goldberg and Seth Rogen, just like This Is the End was from earlier this year that you did not like.
I didn't.
I did. I thought it was very funny. This is... It's about a talk show host played by James Franco and his producer getting caught up in an international assassination plot with a CIA agent. It's going to be a comedy. I really like This Is the End. I like the more improvisational style of it and just the fun environment of it all. I don't know if that's the tone they're going for with this one, but I am curious just because I think they hit a good mark with that last film, and I'm curious to see what they do as a group following up.
Sure.
I realize you're going to wait and pass judgment based on what you hear about it, but
I'll say this. At least they're not playing themselves.
true. It does not look like they are.
And I like James Franco. And, I'm one of the few people I think who actually thought he did a good job in Oz, the Great and Powerful. So I'm interested to see him play like a reporter. I think it'll probably be okay. Hopefully it will be funny. Who knows? So I'm not as excited as you, but I am curious to see what they do after the huge success of This Is the End.
Well, somebody just asked, do you have any other kind of just random ones you just want to quickly list out, other ones on your list that you're really excited about seeing?
Well, let's see. You did. I wasn't going to mention Exodus, but I ended up mentioning that one. Let me just check here. I'm using Letterboxd because it's an awesome site, and that's where I have my list.
That's where we are.
Let's see. Transcendence, which has Johnny Depp and is.
Yeah, no. I'm curious because it is Wally Pfister, who is cinematographer for a lot of Christopher Nolan's films.
Right.
So the look of it should be really cool. It's just, man, I've seen the trailer for this, and I don't know.
I have not seen a trailer.
I don't know.
Okay.
I mean, I'm just saying it could be good. It could be a complete disaster. So,
okay. Two more. There's Midnight Special, which is by Jeff Nichols, who did Mud, and he did Take Shelter. It also stars Michael Shannon. And the only description I have for it is just a father and son go on the run after the dad learns his child possesses special powers. So there again, I guess it's the whole sci-fi element that has me interested.
Sure.
But in the cast, Michael Shannon, Kristen Dunst, Joel Edgerton, and the director. So I'm interested in that one. And then I guess, let's see, one more, which is called Boyhood.
Oh, right.
Okay,
yes.
And it's Richard Linklater.
Yep.
And the story behind this one is that he's been filming a little bit of it over the course of like 10 years or something. And it follows the story of a boy who sees his parents get divorced and then like follows him for the next couple of years. So I don't know, Richard Linklater, I like his stuff. So we'll see. It could be rather uninteresting, I guess. But I admire the technique of trying to document the story, but semi-documenting in real time by taking a break and filming it often.
Well, the whole real-time thing is fascinating to me. Just the fact that we're going to watch a 90-minute, 2-hour movie, whatever it may be, and over the course of that time, you're honestly going to see people age. It's not special effects. It's not makeup. It's especially when it comes to the kid. The kid is going to grow before our eyes, which
right.
I mean, to me, is still just fascinating. I still think that's going to be just a lot of fun to see. Very interesting. Whether or not the story around it is going to hold up, I don't know. We'll definitely see. But I am also very curious to see how that turns out.
And it's got a collaborator that he's done the whole Before Midnight, Before Sunset, all that stuff. It's got Ethan Hawke in it. And I think he's playing the dad.
Okay.
So it'll be interesting to see, too. You're going to get to see him grow, I assume, because he'll be with the kid and he'll get to, become 10 years older. Because the description says age 6 to age 17, 18. So, those are big
11, 12
years.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So,
it's going to be very interesting to watch. If nothing else, it'll be an interesting experiment on film. Hopefully it's got enough of a story around it to keep it going as well.
Agreed. That's all I got.
Well, the only other ones I'll mention are just my geek comic book movies that I just still have to have on the radar. I mean, I'm being very hesitant in saying that I'm holding these up with too much anticipation because these are the kind of films that could really, really disappoint people very easily.
Sure.
But I will say the new Godzilla film I'm very curious about. Gareth Edwards directing, looks to be a much, much more serious take on the film.
Remind me who Gareth Edwards is.
He did the film Monsters.
Okay.
That was kind of the very realistic centered about creatures attacking. Good movie. Yeah. Captain America 2. I'm sorry, trailer looks awesome.
Does it?
It does. It does look awesome. It looks over the top. It looks very busy, but it looks awesome.
Does the Robert Redford cameo scare you?
No, not at all. Actually, I think that adds a whole level. I think that adds a whole level of legitimacy to the whole thing as well. So I'm good with that.
Okay.
Amazing Spider-Man 2. Man, I'm interested and want to see it, but every time I see more and more footage from it or anything, it just looks so over the top, overdone. I'm very nervous about it.
Interestingly enough, not excited about the first two you mentioned at all. My son's been watching on Netflix the Ultimate Spider-Man cartoon series, And it seems like a lot of those storylines are going to be involved in this new movie.
Yeah.
And it has made me interested in it, I guess, because I saw his excitement when he saw, I think they also had a Super Bowl trailer maybe for the Spider-Man 2
They did,
movie.
yes. Mm-hmm.
And he was just like going nuts for it. So
It looks cool. It's just, man, there's a lot going on in this movie, and I'm very nervous about it just being overdone and too many characters, too many villains, too
Is it
many
the
things,
same
too much
director as the
CGI.
first one?
It is.
Okay.
The first Amazing Spider-Man,
Right.
since the reboot. So very curious about that. And last one I'll mention there, again, keeping with my comic book geek side.
Sure.
Marvel's got a film called Guardians of the Galaxy coming out.
Wait a second.
Mm-hmm.
You're mentioning that and not the X-Men movie.
No, I'm not mentioning the X-Men movie. I'm really not interested in that. Because I'll tell you why.
Are you being serious?
Yeah, I'm very serious.
Really?
I saw the trailer for it, and the trailer has not grabbed me. And every time I hear more and more characters are being jammed in this movie, I'm like, this is going to be an absolute disaster.
Now, see, I haven't seen the trailer.
Trailer's
And-
not very
I
encouraging.
haven't been following any hype. I just know that it's Fassbender and whatever the guy is.
It
from
is,
King
and
of
that's why
Scotland.
I guess I'm just going in with very low expectations because every time I turn around, they're blending the old X-Men group and the
Right.
new X-Men group.
Right.
And there's like 40 characters they've
the really
announced.
confusing title that we talked about.
Yes.
Days of Future Past.
Days of Future Past, which is based on a classic storyline, so that's cool. But it's like 40 different characters all crammed in this movie.
Huh.
Every time I hear, "Oh, we've just hired this guy to play this part, and we're playing this part and this part," it's like so many people. How are you going to get this into a 2-hour movie?
Okay.
And plus, Brian Singer's very hit or miss for me right
Sure.
now. I liked his first 2 X-Men movies. Did not like his Superman movie at all.
Right. You were not alone in that.
And then, the guy who did Matthew Vaughn was the one who did the last X-Men movie, First Class, which I really, really liked.
Right.
He's not doing this one. Brian Singer's come back to this now.
Okay.
So that's just got me very worried.
Huh.
So anyway, I know it's not on my list. I mean, I'll go see it, but I'm not eagerly anticipating it.
Okay.
So now Guardians of the Galaxy is a true Marvel film. That's like in the world of the Avengers and everything.
Okay.
These are space heroes though. Chris Pratt, who is Parks and Recreation guy, is the lead star.
Who was in Her. Mm-hmm. Okay, I didn't know
He's
that.
Star-Lord. He is the main big guy. This is a
It's the one
team
with the
of
squirrel, right? An
yeah,
animated
Rocket
squirrel.
Raccoon. Yep.
And has Benicio del Toro as a good guy or bad guy?
He's a bad guy.
Okay.
And you've got Vin Diesel as the voice of Groot, the giant tree that talking tree.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a very eclectic group, and it's also more humorous based than your other superhero
With
movies.
Chris Pratt.
Yeah, it's definitely going for more laughs. They're kind of the has-been second run type of characters. And I think they're going for more of that. James Gunn is the director who has done more comedy work than he's done action work.
Okay.
So it's going to be a very interesting, different movie for Marvel to release in between all their Avengers, Captain America, big tentpole movies. They're dropping this one in with a pretty big budget.
And it's the one they had a tease for at the end of the second Thor movie.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
Yeah, the Benicio del Toro character
Right.
was in that tease. So anyway, I'm curious about those, but they're not making my top tier list just because those movies still make me nervous. You could really just come out of there so upset and angry, like I did in Man of Steel and several other movies in recent years.
Gotcha.
So with that, 2014, lots of movies coming out we're very interested in seeing. We haven't even scratched the surface of the whole list. I know we've got a lot more we could talk about at some point. But those are the ones that probably rise to the surface for us to really think about. So, Chris, let's cap off the show here by talking about a good recommendation, a film that we think you ought to check out that maybe you've missed in the past, maybe didn't get quite as much love as it should have. And, Chris, I'm anxious to hear, what is your recommendation for people to check out on this episode?
Well, thinking about music and people that may have difficult personalities, and thinking of our earlier review of Inside Llewyn Davis, I'm going to go with the documentary from 2012, Beware of Mr. Baker. Mm-hmm. And it documents Ginger Baker, who was the drummer for Cream and Blind Faith. Mm-hmm. And he is a very interesting individual. I didn't know anything about him. And the director traveled to Africa and over a series of interviews kind of gets out of him his, life story. But the video or the movie actually starts off with the director getting punched in the face. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of from Mr. Baker himself.
Wow.
Yes.
So a little bit of synergy back with Inside Llewyn Davis as well.
There
So,
you go.
okay. Good.
So just a very interesting film. And to the thing where I didn't know much about Ginger Baker prior, I can see that he is really a genius and an incredible musician. And even though I don't admire him or don't like him, he was fascinating to stay with a documentary for. So, highly recommend it.
Okay, very cool. Well, mine has a little bit of connection inside Llewyn Davis as well, because I'm going to bring up a film that I think we even mentioned during our review of Inside Llewyn Davis.
Okay.
It is also by the Coen Brothers, and it's the film that I honestly think is more of I see as the companion piece to Inside Llewyn Davis as far as their filmography, and that's A Serious Man.
Okay.
Now, I know that we screened this at Footcandle years ago. I don't know if we were doing the podcast at that time or not.
think we were.
I don't think we have, so we didn't really do an official review of this film.
Right.
But I will say, I love this film. I thought it was great. At the time, it was one of those where I know our audience was very mixed on how they felt about it at the end of the film.
Yes.
I thought it was great. And part of the reasons I really liked it, first off, it was another period movie. So it's also set in the 60s, a few years after Llewyn Davis would have been. I think this was around 67 or so. But it is another one of those things where we've got a character who's just going down a path of things going wrong around him. The difference is with this guy, Larry Gopnik, played by Michael Stuhlbarg, who's great in this film.
Yes, he is.
Is that he's a good guy. He's just having a lot of crappy things happen to him one after another. It isn't really because of choices he's making. That's just life, you know. Where Llewyn Davis, I think, yes, some stuff was happening to him, but a lot of it was self-induced.
Sure.
Along the way. You do kind of end on a very down note, much like you could almost argue Llewyn Davis does.
Right.
But it's just you're following this one character as he's going through these trials and tribulations and issues throughout his life. So again, I see it as kind of a companion piece. It's like two sides of the coin almost, but you're watching a very fascinating character for almost 2 hours and feeling for him as he's going through what he's having to go through. Anyway, I really liked it. I like the fact that they really went with no lead main actor for this one either. Michael Stuhlbarg, nobody knew this guy.
Unknown, right.
So again, like Llewyn Davis with Oscar Isaac, kind of cast an unknown, which I think was a great move in both of these films. I think we could really build our own character that we're watching on film instead of having any baggage carried on from somebody we would recognize.
Sure.
So great choices on both these films. I do see them as very similar. I like A Serious Man a little bit better than Inside Llewyn Davis, but I still like them both.
Sure.
So anyway, A Serious Man, I do. If you've seen Llewyn Davis and you haven't seen A Serious Man, you ought to go check out A Serious Man because I think it'd be an interesting double feature in a way almost to watch.
Yeah, it's like Llewyn Davis without a soundtrack.
Yeah, exactly. So the music isn't as big a deal.
Sure.
This has a lot more to do with faith and religion. So a little bit of that going on there where we didn't really have as much of that in Llewyn Davis. So
Right.
Anyway, so that's our recommendations for right now as well. So we reviewed Inside Llewyn Davis. We reviewed blank insert film name. We talked about 2014 films coming out, and we had our recommendations. The documentary you mentioned, and I already forgot the name of it again.
Beware of Mr. Baker.
Beware of Mr. Baker, and the Coen Brothers, A Serious Man. So with that, we're going to wrap up the show. Again, if you want to go back and listen to some older episodes or hear us talk about the Oscars, you can go back and find our archives on themesh.tv, or you can go onto Apple, iTunes, Podcast Store, and search for Footcandle Films and find us right there. And we'd love to hear feedback from you. If you've got any questions or thoughts on the things we talked about in the film, you can reach us at the mesh.tv website where we have a contact us form. You can also go to our Film Society page, which is footcandle.org, and you can reach out to us there as well. We'd love to hear from you. Give us some ratings on iTunes. Give us some feedback on the website. We always like engaging in dialogue with our listeners. So, Chris, until next time, when we will review maybe another couple movies and talk about some other movie news. Until then, we'll see everybody next time.
See you in the ticket line.
Special thanks to Carpal Tuller for the show theme music. For more about Carpal Tuller, visit www.carpaltuller.com. You've been listening to The Mesh, an online media network of shows and programs ranging from business to arts, sports to entertainment, music to community. All programs are available on the website as well as through iTunes and YouTube. Check us out online at themesh.tv. Discover other network shows and give us feedback on what you just heard.